Pollinators are everywhere. Bees, butterflies, flies, beetles, pretty well any bug you can think of is a pollinator. Insects do the bulk of pollination, and these critters move from flower to flower, dispersing pollens to help plants reproduce. However, pollinators are facing some problems that we can help solve. So let's take a look at what pollinators are and what exactly they're having trouble with. I'm sure when you think of pollinators, the first ones that come to mind are bees. Honeybees are very commonly talked about as they are not only beneficial to pollination, but we enjoy their honey. European honeybees are well loved by farmers and gardeners as they are easy to move about. Bumblebees are also a common sight, as their fluffy black and yellow bodies easily catch your eye. Beyond these two species, there are approximately 3,600 bee species native to the U.S. alone. And if you're nervous about a beehive on your property, don't worry. More than 90% of bees are solitary, meaning they live by themselves, and females construct a little nest when it's time to lay eggs. Butterflies are another common pollinator, as pollen sticks to their legs and bodies as they land on flowers for a sip of nectar. Their beautiful wings make them well loved and desirable to have around one's garden. Flies, although less stunning, are also avid enjoyers of nectar. They possess rather hairy legs onto which pollen sticks, allowing them to easily spread pollen from flower to flower. It would be unfair to talk about pollinators without mentioning beetles. They are some of the first known insect pollinators, with fossils suggesting pollination as far back as 150 million years ago, in the time of the dinosaurs. Now, you might be wondering, what's the big deal about pollinators? Sure, they're cute and pretty and look nice on flowers, but how do we benefit from having them around? Well, according to one study, 70% of crops depend on pollination. This includes loved fruits such as apples, bananas, and strawberries, as well as vegetables, including carrots and broccoli. Now, you may think that food isn't grown near you or that this doesn't matter because you live in the city. However, an estimated 15 to 20% of food is grown near urban areas. With many bees traveling up to a 3-mile radius, pollinators that you see near your house could definitely be helping produce the food that ends up on your table. Now that we know what pollinators are and why we should care about their survival, what kinds of problems are they facing? Without surprise, humans are causing their problems. In urban settings, green space is being replaced with asphalt and concrete. Pollinators have no place to nest and nothing to eat, making cities virtually uninhabitable. On agricultural sites, things aren't much better. The plant diversity is low, and the ground is regularly tilled, not allowing for ground nesters to overwinter. The suburbs are a little more friendly, however the short green lawns that are often mowed and sprayed with pesticides aren't very diverse, and makes it difficult for pollinators to find food and shelter. Paris, France has actually been working on making their space a little more pollinator friendly. They created dedicated pollinator spaces that included diverse plants and cut back on pesticides and weeding, allowing a more natural environment to flourish. Studies then showed that this increased the diversity of pollinators nearby. Pesticides are also a big issue for pollinators, as most pesticides target insect eggs in general, whether or not they're beneficial to the plant. This makes it difficult for pollinators to survive in agricultural landscapes, as well as lawns and flower beds in towns and cities. Nobody likes seeing bites taken out of their award-winning rosebush, but there won't be a rosebush left if there aren't any insects around to pollinate it. So, what can we do about the issues that pollinators are facing? While it may seem difficult to do things like stop the use of pesticides in crops or make your city tear down a building to put in new green space, there are smaller steps you can take to help pollinators flourish. The best option is to plant native plants. Find out what plants are native to your region and put together some garden beds with those plants. Choose a diverse selection, as the larger range of plants you have, the more pollinators you'll be able to cater to. It's also important to make sure that you have 2 specific categories of plants: food sources and nesting sites. Food sources should be flowers that provide nectar and leaves that provide food for larvae in the spring. These vary by pollinator, so there's a very large variety of plants that you can put in to fulfill this requirement. Nesting sites are largely used by solitary bees, which like the hollow stems of plants that die in the fall. You can cut your perennial flowers back in the fall, but we suggest leaving at least a foot above the ground to give bees a place to lay eggs and overwinter. Additionally, you can do less yard work. That's right. A lot of the best ways to help protect pollinators are actually by cutting down some of the yard work you do. Don't spray with herbicide or pesticides, as they're harmful to insects and just the environment in general. Additionally, leaving leaf litter down in the fall is also helpful. Lightning bugs, moths, butterflies, and bees all use leaf litter as a shelter for overwintering. If your grass is going to be dead in a month anyway, why bother raking it now to make it look tidy? Instead, leave those leaves alone so you can be greeted with lots of pollinators come the springtime. Another benefit of putting in native plants is that if you replace some or all of your lawn with them, you reduce the time you have to mow significantly. Imagine having a summer without any laps across the lawn in a blazing sun. Instead, it is replaced by a bit of trimming back of flower heads in the middle of autumn. That's what providing for pollinators looks like on a suburban property. Now, if you've read through this information about providing for pollinators and you live in an apartment or a place where you can't alter the landscape, flower beds are always a good option. Smaller flower boxes can be put on balconies, and flower pots can be put on porches or near doors and mailboxes. Every little thing helps. Xerxes.org has a lot of good resources about how to make the space you have more pollinator friendly. So if you're not sure where to start, go check them out. Your local garden center is also always a good place to get information about what plants will be the best for your region. Do your research, figure out what you can do with the space you have available, and then take action to help pollinators flourish in your area.